Hey, welcome back to Financial Intelligence. Today we're talking with Patrick McAndrew, a financial planner, an Army veteran, Army reservist, and all around great guy. Patrick, welcome.
Thank you very much, Vito. Excited to be here, and I'm glad my bribe for that introduction was.
Anytime I try to bump it up a little bit, hence
Yeah, no, that's
why.
great. I gotta figure out how to live up to any of that.
So, yeah, Patrick, you and I go back, what, 7 or 8 years now, right? Yeah, about
Yeah,
right.
man, time's flying. It's wild. Yeah, when I met you, I was single, no kids, and now I'm not single and a lot of kids.
It's like the Brady Bunch.
It feels that way sometimes, man. It's like,
Wait,
man,
didn't you say you want 8 kids?
I wish I would have started earlier, and I would still want them. It's just I don't know how many more I want now. I want at least one more. Maybe if I could have two more, it'd be great. I just know that the missus is like, oh, this is getting challenging in her now getting to mid 30s. And I'm 44. And so if we had two, three more, it's like I'm going to be such a grandpa at the high school graduation. You know what I mean? So,
Um, it's definitely a thing, right? I started off a lot later, and my son, it will be 21 this year. My girls will be 17 this year, and I will be 55. So yeah, I'm like doing everything I can to not have a cane, walk around with a cane.
right, right.
Um, I exercise every day, and I'm in pretty decent shape. But the one thing I could tell you is when my mom and my aunt were talking to me when we were kids, they're like, don't have kids until you're older. Go and enjoy the world, be selfish and travel the world. And I'm like, okay, so that's what I did. And I didn't have my first kid until I was close to 35.
Mm.
And I think you'll notice this. You probably already do notice this, right? It's hard for you to keep up with them,
A little bit. I know, like my 2 year old, he has the most amazing energy. So we
right?
took him to Bubble World. It's this whole like little exhibit they put together out here somewhere, and they go into different rooms. They had like different displays. Anyways, one room was like a swimming pool size, like Olympic size swimming pool with bunch of little balls, like a fun house kind of little balls. You could jump in. Like, man, he saw that. He lost his mind. I put him down, and he just took off. And he had one speed for about an hour and 20 minutes. I couldn't believe it. I'd never seen him that active, that excited, laughing the whole time.
Just
And I was right with them up until about I think about the 40-minute mark. I was like, okay, I'm sitting down, man. You have at it, kid. And I was just watching him just going berserk, and near death probably 10 times. So yeah,
right.
I get what you're saying for sure.
You're in much better shape than I was, I'll tell you. I remember running around, and we had a place called the Jungle at the time. It was this thing where it had a little hamster mazes and little
Yeah.
obstacle. I remember being there, and I was so exhausted. Oh, I just had to sit down. My mom at the time, 20 years younger, right? She's running around with my kid, and this is before we had the twins. And boy, I tell you, and it's always
Twins.
been this thing where I've always been a little more resistant to full time engagement, right? Like I'll run with the kid, we'll do a little sprint, and then my ego takes over,
Yeah.
and then I win, and then I realize I really shouldn't have done that, and I'll limp around because I pulled a muscle somewhere.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah,
I think the one big thing, the only real huge advantage that I feel I have being a dad at 44, all my friends that I grew up with and whatnot, all started knocking it out in high school, some of them in early 20s, is that I'm very clear about the passing of time. And I'm just way more present than I ever would have been in my 20s, even some of my 30s. And so
yeah.
when I'm with them, I am with them, and I am very present. I just know it. It's just so temporary. It's just I already miss who they were yesterday, and so that's that is one thing that I can say. That's a super or a huge advantage of being a father in my 40s. Although I would have loved to have got it done in my 20s.
I got to say, I do spend a lot more time with my kids now, quality time.
Yeah.
Now that they're older, on Sunday I went to the beach with my one of my daughters. The other one didn't want to go. And we spent, it was a good quality 6 7 hours, and we talked. She mostly talked, and I listened. We walked the dogs, and we had lunch. We went to books, and we did all these different things. And it's one of those things. It's one of those cherished memories that I'll remember until I can't remember things anymore.
What's what's the line from Unforgiven? One of my favorite lines. Clint Eastwood goes like, "We all got it coming, kid." Eventually.
It's very true. It's very true. Patrick, you were telling me a story about your Army day,
Oh,
camera stuff,
yeah.
right?
So
Yeah. Why don't you share that with us?
I first joined as a light wheel mechanic, and then at some point, I, I was only doing that for just a little bit, and then I quickly wanted to change, and I got asked to go do this what's called a combat cameraman course. 25 Victor was what the MOS was called. I think it's still called. And so the Army is the only one that does this course where you do videography and still photography. It's a joint school, so everybody's there. Marines, Navy, everybody's there. Coast Guard's even there at the schoolhouse. They do all the information jobs there, like
I
your
like how
public
you said
affairs,
even Coast Guard's there.
even Coast Guard. No offense to our coastie brothers
Yeah.
and sisters. And they do all these information related jobs or careers there, like broadcasting, writing, illustrators, all of it there, and the videography course. And so the Army is the only one where you do both. The rest of the services they do one or the other. It's either still photography or videography.
Huh.
So I was like 22 or 23, and I was at the schoolhouse for like 10 months. It's a 10-month long school if you're doing both, and it was great. I had never went away to college. This is probably the closest I had ever gotten to that, where I was just my sole responsibility every day was to wake up and make it to class. Outside of that, we did what soldiers who were already enlisted and already went to basic and we're not initial entry. We don't have those restrictions, and it was a blast and it was great. And I got to learn how to do that stuff. And my first deployment to Afghanistan was in that role in 2002-3, so it's very early on, and I got to do some really neat things out there.
That's really cool. Did you get to keep any of the footage?
Yeah, I have some of it. I have some of it on CDs. I should probably check and see if that stuff's still holding up, because it'll probably start to wear out or whatever.
Yeah, you should at least send it over, put it over on your personal account on YouTube and save it. Just because it's an extra place to keep it.
That's a good idea.
Actually, I have a friend, an Army dog friend. Sorry. He was MP, and he actually did a couple of different documentaries. He did a documentary on Pearl Harbor, and one in the Civil War, and one on D-Day, at just documenting the paratroopers that went down over France. And he has, yeah. And the last time I went to Hawaii, I went to Pearl Harbor, and I spent 20, 30 minutes looking around the gift shop, and there was his DVD. I had to go spend $40. Yep. And I bought it, and I took a picture of it, and I said, "Hey, Scott, so if it's something that's worthwhile, maybe we can write a story about it."
It's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I gotta go look. I haven't looked at stuff in a long time.
Yeah, I hope it still works.
Yeah. Unfortunately, just because I wasn't like there as a broadcaster or anything like that, I was there with psychological operation, or PSYOP for sure. Not a lot of that stuff was stuff that's publicly usable, but there is for sure some. Yeah. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Maybe we can do a documentary on all the, what was it? The movie with the goats?
Men who stare at goats. Yeah. Although the Afghans, maybe the men who stare at, I don't know, burkas.
It's a whole new world, man.
Yeah.
Actually, the men who eat goats.
Yeah, exactly. And other things.
Let's get down to a little bit of business here. You're a financial planner. How long have you been doing that?
I first got into financial services in 2000. 2003 or four, something like that. I want to say
Okay.
2003.
And that's
And
about, no, I didn't meet you then. I met you.
no, you met me. We linked up about 2014 or 15. I want to say.
Yeah.
And it was initially just mostly life insurance that I fell in love with. I love what it did. I'd never heard of it, didn't know anything about it. I was very young, and I had my mother passed away very prematurely. I was 18, sisters 17, and no life insurance, no nothing. And it caused a lot of challenges that could have been helped, obviously. And so when I learned about how life insurance worked, I fell in love with that. Anyways, about 8 or 9 years later, I want to say about 2011 or 12 is when I got additional licenses and started learning more about what else a financial professional can do and a bigger impact. And that's when I fell in love with doing much more comprehensive financial planning with the family and seeing all the great good that can come out of doing good planning in a relationship with somebody and seeing that work over time.
So you don't just try to I see it on TikTok all the time. Like, you need an IUL, you need to get an IUL right away. One thing I appreciate about you, and full disclosure for everybody, there's no affiliation here whatsoever. I don't get paid for if I send somebody to Patrick, but he is my financial planner and he does a great job. And trust him with everything, mostly because we talked about it a couple times, when we talked about me getting life insurance, what did you tell me? He said, you're too old.
Yeah. First, it's like, well, let's see if you need it, because you guys did have coverage. And to your point, I think what initially prompted your intrigue in this was just seeing some information out there about what's possible with life insurance in terms of cash value. And TikTok's been great at that, at providing snippets of information to people that kind of gets them intrigued about what's possible when it comes to investing in certain things, one of them being life insurance. And I probably get a question about once to twice a month from a friend, colleague, not colleague, or maybe associated industry partner or a client, or somebody sends me somebody that has questions about something they saw on TikTok or Instagram about life insurance policies and investing in life insurance. And I'll be the first to tell somebody, hey, I love the concept. I think it's outstanding. However, it's not right for everybody. There's always way more details. And so anybody who sees those things, they should do what you did, actually ask somebody and get some more information before they come like that.
Yeah, like, to sign me up, to sign me up, to sign me up. That's easy to do, but what's the strategy behind everything? That's really what financial intelligence is all about, right? You introduced me to Scott.
Yep.
Guy's brilliant. He does healthcare insurance. I have an Army veteran who's now not a tax lawyer, a family planner. He's we're going to interview him. I want you to interview him as well. He's also a Matador, a 1987 Matador from Monte Vista, Cupertino. I went to Monte Vista High School.
I was thinking like in the bull ring. What do you mean?
No, back in 1987, before you were born. But I went to a reunion a while back. We started talking. I'm like, dude, you have to sit down with us and talk. And this is it. So, guys, if you're listening at home, this isn't us trying to pitch you on anything. This is trying to get your brain around all the professional services that are out there. And Patrick knows financial planning, and he knows life insurance, and I know real estate, and I know lending, and Scott knows family planning, and Scott Yamamoto knows.
Think of the battleship, the Yamamoto.
Yeah, he knows health insurance. What questions don't I know what to ask when it comes to health insurance? What happens if my doctor says I need this, or what happens if my insurance company denies this claim?
Yeah.
How do we do that? And I know that there's guys out there that talk about home insurance. And so we want to be more of just the high level mentors to help people understand what our day to day is, but also maybe you might glean something from it, a little bit of intelligence, a little bit of wisdom.
Yeah.
together and break down the silos that we all work in our industries and try to cross paths, right?
Yeah.
So
And I think what's also very powerful about this network, if you will, is how super focused each of us is in the relationship part of it all.
right.
I haven't met the family planning guy yet. If I need to meet him, but you talk about Scott. This is true for you and myself in that we're all professionals who don't work for some large entity where you're a family's calling a 1-800 number, right? My clients, for example, have my cell phone number or they have a way of contacting me when they need to. I answer it right away, but however, they know how to get a hold of me, right? And we're all very focused on building a community and maintaining long lasting relationships with people. And
Right.
that's huge. I think that's just a huge thing that used to be part of what services were, right?
That's what service is meant.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me. And not so much anymore, right? And so that's what I find so awesome about our network and
Yeah.
working with Vito and how you provide so much value to your community.
Right. And I think we're in the path of our career and the part of our careers where we're not desperate for a sale. Yes, we're in sales. We're in networking right now. Absolutely. We're
Sure.
doing this to help advance our careers. Absolutely. But that's not the point of it. The point of it is we want to cross pollinate and educate. I want to learn more about what you do and what Scott does and what my other Scott does and what the
Yeah.
lenders do and what the insurance carriers do because it's going to help me,
Yeah.
right? And if I interview people over and over again, I, I'll be better off for it. And if I share that experience with somebody, I hope that they can glean from it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the beautiful things about being a professional in this field or in our fields for so long is, and I know this is true for you because of the content I watch you put out, is that after a while of being in my craft, for example, and I know this is true for you too, is that especially now getting into my 40s now, where I have enough expertise and the life experience combined, and you put those two together, you start to see the patterns. You've been through different markets, and you just understand at a higher level how all these things work together. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like everybody is talking panic. The market's going to crash. The recession's coming. I'm like, yes, the recession's coming. Let's get to work. This is how
Right.
we're going to use this to our advantage, right?
That's right.
Or the market's on fire right now. These are the strategies we're seeing that are successful. I would love it if you use me. I understand you have loyalty, other loyalties, but if I can help somebody with one strategy and they use it with somebody else, that's okay too, right? I'm grateful that I'm as busy as I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
So,
think I know for myself, it's just I always knew things on a certain level. I'll give you an example. Now that I'm married and I have two kids, the experience I have when I speak to a family about this, when it comes to planning out the future, is just a little different now compared to when I didn't have that. One specific example, I've gotten this question often. I typically work with people who are self-employed who have a small business. My really niche market is people who are veterans and self-employed or have a small business, and it kind of springs out from there. Anyways, very busy people usually, and sometimes the spouse is very different from their partner, right?
mhm,
Like one's a money person and one's not, and there's typically very different values around how that money is spent and how it's used. There's, for example, one's a saver, one's a spender, all the classic things. And this is true for all couples, and true in my relationship too. And so a client asked me the other day, and she goes, and she's been relatively new to me, and wonderful human being. She's doing incredible things in education space and creating a platform to educate parents on how to provide more value to their children. Doing amazing stuff. Anyways, she asked me, she goes, "Do you think I should bring my husband in to these conversations? Should we integrate our finances?"
I'm sorry. Yeah. I
Sure.
mean, how involved is he going to be? Does he care? Or does he just want his allowance?
But
That sounds
it's
like
not
me.
uncommon. It's super common challenge. And I laugh too because I was like, only because I'm only been married now for, I want to say 3 years. Oh, yeah, 3 years. And it'll be 3 years later this year. And we are still doing that. We're still in the process of integrating and having the conversations and working on it because we have very different values around money, different upbringings around it, different experiences. She's like I'm not going to say much about her.
No, but you know what? It's valuable to understand the fact. Hang on a sec. Let me get this.
It's just different. And so, anyways, it was a great conversation to have with her. And what I told her was what I've told people whenever this question has come up, because it has come up. I said, it really depends. There's no right answer. I think depending on the books you read or the podcast you listen to or that TikTok video you watch, the influencer you follow, they may have some different answers on the right way to do this. And I would say, in my experience, there is no right answer here. There's only what works best for the couple and figuring that out. And it usually takes a lot of conversations. For some people, it works best to keep it separate. On paper, this is what I told her, on paper, it makes a lot of sense, all the sense to integrate completely as much as possible because it's the most effective way to get to the mountaintop, get to your goals, get to elimination of debt, whatever it is. That's the best way to do it. You'll get there faster, more than likely. And there's potential for a lot of conflict on the way, especially when values are different and not aligned yet. Yep. However, it's also a tremendous opportunity because it'll create much more opportunities for increased intimacy in the relationship because you're more on the same page with each other. And so she took that and she needs to figure that out. And it looks like we're going to be having a conversation together with the spouse. And typically, whenever I meet with a couple, if the spouse isn't involved, I won't have the appointment. It's usually I need to have both, and there's for all those reasons. Somebody might ask, how come he wasn't there? He was in the beginning, and then he stepped out, and then it just became me and her.
And that's true. It's like when we first got together, we moved in together, and we had a big fight because I didn't know how to control my money, and it went through my hands like water. And we had a sit down, and she's, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to buy a house. Okay, well, if you want that to happen, you need to trust me and give me all your money. I'll pay off all your bills and I'll give you $20 a week. And that didn't work out that well, except for the fact is 20, 30 years later, I'm actually pulling 40 out now a week, but I'm still pulling out $20 a week. I mind my P's and Q's. I mind what I spend. I don't blow money. And every time I sell a house, she gets the commission check and I get $20. That's just the way it works. And here's the thing, 30 years down the road, I don't know how much money we have. It's okay. It doesn't matter. But she controls it all. She has the ability to pile on that money and watch it build and build. And that's why we hired you out too, because we needed to know how to better use or utilize that money and invest it in stock, bond, ETFs, gold, what have you.
Whatever.
And it's been an asset to do it. It's stressful sometimes because I don't know where the money is. I'm good at making money. I'm good at spending it. She's good at saving it. She's like a hoarder, right?
Yeah, you guys really, it's interesting. I'm not sure how do I want to phrase this. It's like you guys are a great example of how things can go right and how it could go wrong. And let me explain. You guys are so different that it could have just led to a lot of conflict. right? Instead, you guys figured out a way to make it almost like a super combination of powers. And so each one knows their power and they use it and it's integrated and you guys have achieved so much success that way. Does that make sense?
It does, because I'll tell you what the key is. I'm a control freak. I'm a huge control freak. Everything that I do, I have to be 100% control.
My
And
wife would probably say I'm the same way.
the key to that success is, so I have somebody blowing up my phone right now. The key to that success is I let go. And I know it's like, what? You're a control freak. I know. It's one of those things. When you become an adult,
Yeah.
you grow up and you get a little bit more. I'm not saying I'm mature. I'm saying I'm a little more mature. But you become a little more mature, and you put your big boy pants on, your big girl pants on, you start acting like adults. You have to let others,
Yeah.
you have to trust others. And I do. I trust her to do the right thing with our money. She probably has it all under a mattress. I don't know. No, I know she does. I know where the money is.
Yeah.
I'm joking about that, but she does what she wants to do it. And if if I s- she does she do it the way I would do it? Hell no. I would be far more aggressive with my money.
Yeah.
But would we be where we are? Would we be further ahead, or would we be further behind? I don't know. She's doing it. I let her do it. I can't critique that, right?
Yeah. And I think most importantly, the way you've done it is that I don't know everything, obviously. However, I would say just based on the results and when I've met with you both and the conversations I've had, either one on one or when we're together, is that the way you have done it, the way you guys have done it together, because it's true, you may have done it differently, could have got better financial results. However, at what cost? Probably a lot more conflict. And so, was it really a win? Right? And that's my point, is that it could go wrong when people have such different sets and they don't figure out a way to make it work in their favor. And I've seen that happen over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think just bringing it back around. Now that I'm going through that myself, these are all things I already knew and have had training in and have coaching in to be able to provide support in that to those who need it, because it's a huge part of what a good financial planner should be able to support a couple with. However, now that I'm going through it myself, it's just a little bit different now. It's just a little bit more. I can just speak to it in a way that I just quite couldn't before, I guess.
You have more empathy to it because you're experiencing it.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, totally. And I just understand it at a deeper level.
It's just like for me, like when I sell a house of somebody, of their parents, somebody's parents passed away. I've been through it. Not my parents, but my wife's parents have passed through it. It passed, and I understand the process of having to separate the property and mitigate and go through the entire process of whether it's probate or a trust, and the steps to do to prepare people so that you get outside of the cloud, or at least I'm outside of the cloud of despair when somebody passes away, right? Because I'm not emotional to it.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot easier for me to help guide people through that process because I've been through it. I understand
Yeah.
the process. And I could just sit there and take a few moments while people shed a tear, take a moment, and then we get back into the swing of things. You're doing the same thing. You're just on the upward climb of life, and you're marrying and you're learning how to be an adult.
Adulting.
And that's part of what it is, right? When you marry somebody or you move in with somebody and you share finances with somebody, or you share rent and utilities and
Yeah.
food and whatever with somebody, you're in a relationship, and that's a huge part of it. There's the savings part, and then there's also the investing part, and I think that's where you come in. So if you're starting out, what are some things you like to tell young couples?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I often get questions like around subjects like this, Patrick, I have $500. What do you think I should invest it in? I don't know, go to Vegas.
Black. Put it all on the.
Right on black, baby. And it's such a loaded question, right? And because I need to know so much more.
Right. Right.
People often think that a financial planner or advisor will have, knows where you should invest your money, is good at picking the right stock or bond or whatever. And I'm absolutely not that person. I'm much more of a value to those who just are looking for somebody to provide good guidance on what it is they're trying to do. Like, why do you want to invest that money? What is it for? When do you need it by? And how much do you need? Now we can start having a much more valuable conversation about what to do with that $500. Because without knowing, it's just like running a race. If you don't know where that finish line is, good luck. Right? How are you going to run it?
And
It's more about having that conversation. So when I meet somebody new, especially the first time, it's much more about trying to understand where it is they're trying to go. And half the time, people don't usually know where they want to go. They have
yeah.
very vague ideas that they've kind of learned just through being, exposed to information and what their parents did and what their friends are doing. However, what's concise, clear, and measurable outcomes for them as a family, not quite sure. And so I love that part. Just going on that journey with folks to figuring out what it is that they want and then figuring out a plan to get there. What stock to pick or what when to buy gold, all that comes at the tail end. And we'll figure that piece out. But none of that
Right.
matters if we don't know where we're going.
And here's the thing too. When I went to school later, I graduated with my bachelor's when I was 41 in business. And not once did anyone tell us how to save for a down payment and how to manage a
Right.
budget at home and how to invest money or what kind of money I should expect year 1, year 5, year 10, year 20 into this career that I'm paying so much money into. What I mean, if I'm going to do a liberal arts major or I'm going to do computer security or I'm going to do business or I'm going to do whatever, what are the what are today's numbers? What do those look like today? Because tomorrow's numbers are going to be different.
Yeah.
And when I sit down with those veterans at San Jose State, I have a little 5-10 minute motivational thing like Chris Farley down by the river. I'm like, this is how much money you should be expecting to make. Not this week, not tomorrow, not when you get your first job. When you get your first job, treat yourself like you're a fresh boot. Get in that broom and sweep up and do whatever it is and get noticed.
Yeah.
And once you get some length in those teeth, you start earning your badges, you start earning a promotion here and there. This is the kind of money you should be expecting. And people are like, their mouths just, I go, nobody's ever told you this. And I hate to tell people this because I don't like telling people how much money you should make because that's me putting a limitation on them.
Right.
What if I told you, in this job you can make $200,000 a year, but really you can make a million? I'd be just giving you a disservice.
That's right. Man, that's good. Yeah,
Um,
I totally behind that. Yeah.
and I think that's the same thing with your goal setting of where you want to be in 20, 30 years. Because, guys, if you're listening to this right now, 20, 30 years goes by so quick.
Mm.
You don't even know. And you need to pay attention and you need to put away. But your goal, because what happens if you get to it? Yeah, you win. But what happens if you get halfway there? Right? What happens if you're like, oh, I only want to have $500,000 in my retirement when I retire, and something happens, you get halfway there, you have $250,000 to live on for the rest of the year. Why not make it $10 million?
Yeah.
Why not? It's not a failure if you don't get there. It's not a failure if you get halfway there.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want to say that number because that number really has to be up to what you think you can manage, right? Not you, Patrick, you, the listener.
Hey, I'm almost $1 million. You're hitting on a few things here, and I can go down so many rabbit holes of this. Excuse me, but one key one is it talks about people will put limitations on themselves. You don't need to give it to them; they'll do it to themselves. And that's a challenge I do have when I'm sitting with a couple, especially if they've never had a financial advisor before, or if they haven't had strong conversations about money with each other. We
Right.
usually don't work together, and that's a lot of what the first meeting is. It's just like a first date, getting to know each other. I know for me, I want to have a successful outcome, and the matchup has to work. Of all the people I sit with the first time in a year, I only take on about 8 or 9, maybe 10 new clients a year. I don't try to make a whole bunch. That was my phone. I guess silent doesn't work on it for some whatever reason. But anyways,
I put mine on silent.
I put mine
The
on silent.
vibration thing kept on coming over. It started zapping on my desk, and I think people heard it. So I apologize if you did hear it.
No, that was mine. Where was I going with that? I don't want to take too long with this. What's it talking about? Anyways,
Welcome to getting old.
there's a lot of people I don't end up moving forward with because I just know it's not going to work. I'm not going to be a good value to them, and they're not going to be somebody I want to work with long term. This is not somebody I want to have a beer with. This is not somebody who I would leave my kids with. This is not somebody who is in a growth mindset. This is not somebody who is open to solutions. This is not somebody who is willing to do the work. This is not somebody who's willing to be open and honest. Not that you have to get there in the first meeting. However, you usually can tell if somebody's just not going to get there. And so the limitations is just so built into folks, and it's a part of our society. It's part of the way people grow up. Last thing I'll say on it is one thing I notice all the time, and I've done this so often now, and it's been 20 years of me doing this, that when I sit down with a couple, I can usually, it's very clear what the upbringing around money is. Just through the conversations we're having, I can tell what their energy is around money. Like, okay, this person grew up in a house that didn't have any money, and this is how they treat it. And some people turn that money into multiples, and some people treat it like it's scarce. And it's just so interesting to see how people created this story around money that first started when they're 3, 4, and 5 years old, right?
Yeah. I could tell you straight up, I know I was dirt poor growing up, and my mindset was I'm going to be rich when I grow up. I don't know how I was going to do it, but I put it out there, and I don't know if I'm rich. I'm definitely not rich. Jill's rich, but if you put it out there as a goal and it becomes your one thing, that again goes back to the big, hairy, audacious goal, right?
Yeah.
What kind of goals can you set for yourself, and how can you realistically get there? And even though I'm a Christian, I believe in other aspects, right? Like The Secret. Have you ever heard of The Secret?
Yeah, sure. Great.
Right?
It came out early 2000s. I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Rhonda James or whatever her name is. And you put this thing out there, and it's true. You put that thing out there, and you could put it out there 20 years ago. And next thing you know, you're like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm living in this life of what I wanted 20 years ago, and I totally forgot about it.
So it's interesting you brought up the Secret. So Bob Proctor, for those of you, some people may not know who that is. Google that guy. He started that whole industry of one of the starting people who started that whole industry of working on yourself and personal development. And he comes out there. He's very prominent in that film. So I got to meet him and spend some time with him. And I got to meet him. This was not too long ago. This was only a few years ago. I want to say he was 89 or 90.
200.
Yeah, he was up there. But man, I tell you, he got up. I was sitting front row. He got up on stage, and he brought it like a young man. He had energy. He didn't take the steps to get up the stage. He took a step and got up on stage. Like, it was phenomenal to see the way he brought it the first time I saw him. Anyways, he talked about that show, about that video, and his big gripe about it was though they cut out the very significant, the most important part. It's not just set the goal; it's all the work you got to do to get there. It's not just hope dope. It's not fairy dust. You can't just imagine your way to a place. You got to put the work in. And so, me as an advisor, the way I see that, my role when somebody's putting the work in is to help guide the work, help guide the fruit of that work, so that you get there even faster.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
and,
it's your the way you collect new clients is long-term oriented. In
right.
a business, your industry, it has to be long-term. You can't be in it for the quick win, right?
I think there's definitely folks out there, especially when it comes to those cash value life insurance, as you pointed out. Started with, there's definitely a lot of transactional relationships out there that are in to make a quick buck, and they have convinced themselves they're doing a lot of good. I'm sure some of them are, and I'm sure there's some aren't.
Yeah,
I would
maybe
say
they
you're.
are, right?
That's right. That's right. And for me, it's a long term. I want to be with somebody. I want to see the success of the planning, because things change too, right? Like life never goes exactly the way we planned. Boy, am I learning that. And anyways, things change, and we need to adjust the plan as we go. And there's nothing more fulfilling for me. And the reason why I do what I do is to be able to be a part of that family's journey. And I don't take any credit for it, because I'm not doing the work. They're doing the work. I'm just here to help provide feedback, provide advice, and provide that guidance so that they can get to where they want to get to faster. And with accountability is a big part too. Just keeping people accountable to what they say they wanted.
You've known me for a long time, and I'm the cat that chases that red dot everywhere, right? I'm like, what about this? What about that? Blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, you've steered me back into the shipping lane that we're going on. And I understand that. I'm always looking at options. I'm the options guy. I'm the big picture guy. I don't know about the minutia until it comes down to real estate. And even then, it's like I know everything about real estate, and I have a plan. I have a Gantt chart. So I specifically say this is step 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to 758. What are the different steps that we're going to take? I will show it to you. I don't think about it. I just do it. Right.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I love about you. Actually, I think that's part of your. That's how you. That's one of the reasons why you're so successful.
You have to define what you do, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's very many other agents out there that can specifically show you what you do day to day. And I I don't know if it's right, but I do it, and I'm okay at it. And you know what? I admit that I make faults too.
Yeah. I'm
So
excited about what you have invited me to be a part of, building out this financial intelligence team, if you will. I think it's a tremendous value to the communities that we're a part of, and I can't wait to just do more of it and see where it goes.
I think we're still recording, but just so you know, what we're doing is you're expected to have the same interviews with other people, right?
Yeah.
Not just Scott Yamamoto and Scott the lawyer and Luis and Hector and Scott the mortgage guys. We want to build this network out. We're constantly building and bringing more people in, and it becomes a black hole of information, and we'll be able to categorize it and ask questions and have FAQs, and regular people that are not service people will be able to come in and say, I have a question about X, and that's in financial planning. And then it goes right here, and we asked the question and you answered it. And that's the beauty of it. That's what we're trying to do, is help create a library of knowledge that crosses all the service industries.
Yeah, so I think it's a tremendous opportunity for somebody who's looking to get clear on what they need to do. And people's financial lives are getting more and more complicated. There's just more and more options out there. Things are getting weirder in some ways. And to have a network of professionals who can vouch for each other that are not transactional. And I think that's a big part. They're not transactional. They are relationship built. I am relationship built. My relationship to my clients is what matters the most, and I want to be here long term. So it's super important that every relationship is treated with respect, dignity, and love, right? And I know you're the same way, and that's the people we attract. So I think there's all kinds of good that's going to come out of that.
Another thing is, I went to a veterans event in Santa Clara at the Santa Clara County Fairgrounds a couple weeks ago.
I think I saw a picture of that. Yeah.
And not that you have to know about this, but this is a program for, if you happen to know a veteran, if you're listening to this and you happen to know a veteran that's struggling, he just got out of the military. I don't care, even if he's out of the Coast Guard, whatever, I don't care. We have programs to get them focused on a career. Part of what we're learning is that veterans, as they transition out of the military, is that they're not only missing their camaraderie, they're missing their friends, they're missing the routine.
Yeah.
We start to miss the mission. And the mission is whatever it is. If you're a combat photographer or infantry or intel or an artillery guy or a pilot, you miss the mission, whatever it is, because that's always the grand thing that we're always focused on getting towards. When you get out, you lose that mission.
Yeah.
You lose that camaraderie. And that's why we have such a high suicide rate and drug addiction rate and homeless rate. So people that are veterans and they're showing signs of struggling, send them our way, because we have a lot of support systems behind us. It's not just the VA. There's the VA health, VA guy, whatever, but there's also nonprofits that are out there helping people, helping veterans get on their feet and focused on their career. And you might become a real estate agent or financial planner or a trust lawyer or whatever, but you can also become a certified computer science guy and computer security. And this program right here is absolutely free. It's a grant paid for by the state, by the federal, and by private investors. And if you want to know about it, let me know, because I will send you over to Corey and we'll get you hooked up.
That's
Corey's
cool.
also a Marine. Not this guy, but the guy that's in charge of this. He's a Marine and we hit it off. He's a great guy. And there's programs like that are out there all the time that we just don't talk enough about. So that's what I'm doing. I'm talking about it. And I want people to talk more about it.
Awesome. I've not heard of that. That's really cool.
Yeah. They also have another program where, if you think about archaeology, there's a group over in San Mateo that will take in veterans and they'll pay them to do either a dig or categorize a dig or some kind of archaeological artifacts or what have you. And you get to immerse yourself in the world of archaeology, not like Indiana Jones. It's not that like that. It's boring because it's bookwork, but it's exciting because it's a science and it's learning how to pull ideas and concept out of artifacts and how we used to be as people. That's awesome. That's a free program as well.
Free. Wow. Right on, man. We need to obviously do this some more. Yeah. And I have so much I did not get to. There's some, we did a lot more relationship stuff. However, there's also incredible stuff happening just in financial services in general. Not that I want to give advice, because I don't do general advice. You're not on here to get a, put it this way. If I say something on here, that doesn't mean go do it and go buy that stock. All right. I'm not giving you anybody financial advice. I don't know anything about anybody's situation who I don't get to ask them questions with. So that's not what this is. Right. However, there's just interesting things going on in the financial services landscape that we're just kind of talking about, and so people understand what that means long term. For example, have you heard of this? Have you heard of Benji?
Like the dog?
Not dog. Right, so this is a new offering through, oh my gosh, Franklin Templeton, I believe. Yeah, Franklin Templeton Funds, which is one of the long-time mutual fund company in financial services. And this is an app you can download. And I'm not going to get all into it, but essentially, you're talking about a registered fund company that is highly regulated, is now got into the cryptocurrency space. right? And they've created an opportunity to where you can basically hold your money market fund, collecting 4 or 5% in your and hold it like a token in your digital wallet. This is a direct competitor to what's called a stable coins. And so some people are exactly what I'm talking about. Some people are like, what the hell are you talking about? So, anyways, without getting too far in the rabbit hole, it's just a interesting development in that you're seeing very large institutions making very clear, intentional, funded, and huge plays into the crypto market in very awesome ways. So it just means that in the future, more and more of this will be happening. So it'd be good to at least understand how that might affect your long-term financial plan, even your day-to-day financial transactions.
So
Interesting stuff. I'd say check it out for anybody who wants to check that out.
I'd love to learn more about it and talk more about that, because didn't the feds just regulate some sort of crypto, or is it all crypto?
So great question. And this is, let me be clear, this is not my area of expertise, and however, it is an area I'm following. And so there's been a lot of, what's the word I want to use? Enforcement has started to happen where you're having the federal regulatory bodies that would look at this are starting to come down on cryptocurrency offerings. So you had, I think it's Coinbase right now. That's the one that's getting hammered. And all this kind of happened from the big fallout of, oh gosh, what's the name of the one that was completely went out of business and was basically doing all kinds of illegal stuff.
It was from that young kid that did it, right?
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it right now. Anyways, that kind of was like the big thing that kind of, I believe, that kind of got these regulators like, oh, we got to really start looking at this stuff. And so it's starting to draw a lot of regulatory scrutiny. And so that said, Franklin Templeton is a very traditional, institutional, been around forever. They're not into doing something that they probably shouldn't be doing. And so the fact that they were able to get something approved and pushed through and offered in this way, that says a lot. That says that I think what you can automatically say, okay, this is something that's not going to just disappear and go away. This is here to stay. And it's going through a lot of changes, and we'll see what the regulatory actions are. And it's something that I think people should start paying a little bit more attention to if you've never paid attention to it.
Well, if you can guarantee me a 10,000% ROI, I will give you $100,000 today.
I can guarantee you a 10,000% increase in how much I love you if you give me $100,000.
That's a great way to look at it.
Thanks for your time, man. I appreciate being on. I think I probably talked too much for you. And
no, are you kidding? That's what I want. I want you coming on and talking and sharing your knowledge.
Okay, great. Because you asked great questions. You had me going. So
I don't think I asked you like half the questions I was going to ask. I mean, here we are in an hour. So we got to come back next week or the week after.
Right on. And let's do it.
All right, dude. As soon as I upload this, I'll send it to everybody. I'm Vito Scarnecchia with the Abitano Group, and this is
Patrick McAndrew with the American Wealth Project and Core Planning. And thanks, you, Vito. Appreciate you, man.
American Wealth Project. We got to talk more about that next week.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, guys. We'll see you out there.
All right. See ya.